Welcome to the Small Business Surgeon Podcast, the show where we dissect the businesses of top producers, examine their growth strategies, and share with you the bare bones of their success. I am your host, Samuel Smith, and I'm glad you're here. Let's operate. Welcome back to the Small Business Surgeon Podcast. And today we have the absolute privilege of speaking with Nathalie Herrey, a renowned motivational speaker, corporate consultant, and life coach. Nathalie is the founder of the Pick Up Your Crown movement. She has over 25 years experience and more than 200 inspirational speeches delivered worldwide. And I'm really excited to talk to her. Please welcome to the show, Nathalie Herrey. Nathalie, welcome.
Thank you so much. Hey, and you tricked me before. You totally said my name right now.
It's all good.
You just have to bring out your British accent.
Is that what it was?
I love it.
All right.
Yeah, I love it.
So, Nathalie, welcome to the show. I'm very, very pleased to have you on here. Before we get too deep into stuff, can you just tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got started on that journey?
Yeah. So, I'm from Sweden originally. I grew up there. My family is definitely a bunch of A personalities. My dad and one of my brothers are Olympic athletes. My dad, several medals. Yeah. So I grew up with that. At the same time, my uncles became really famous and they actually won Eurovision.
No kidding.
That's yeah. So
come on, now, what year was that?
84. So they're having their 40th anniversary right now. So it's been a huge thing. They were at Eurovision this year and they've been touring through Europe, and because Europeans are very nostalgic, so I love it. It's like my whole childhood is like starting up over again.
Eurovision's huge in Europe. It's not so much in America where we're at, but in Europe, I just remember we would have growing up, we'd have parties where you go around to people's houses and watch the whole thing. It was a big deal.
It's huge, and I mean Sweden is one of the countries that really it was crazy growing up. I mean, we would have to change places where we lived. Two of my uncles lived with my family when they got famous. So I mean, it was insane. People lived out on our driveway. We had to move 3 moving trucks during the night, trying to get off the trays. I mean, it was tons of stuff. And then obviously I was privileged to be able to travel a lot with my dad being an Olympic athlete. We lived a bit at the Olympic Center in Mexico City, and then in Mexico City, and then traveled several different other countries and around the world. So it was great to be able to have that exposure and obviously be around people who were very driven, because with that came, other athletes and other artists or, people that were around managing my uncles. So one of the experiences was that, the fans would come running into these huge stadiums, right? And they would just let them in and they would get trampled. And I remember one time, we drove home afterwards and I mean, I'm only 7, 8, 9 years old at this point. And we drove home to one of the fans because her arm had been broken. And it always reminded me to always remember, those people that are supporting you and never become too big for them, because they are the ones that made you that way. Yeah. So, And then I've helped build. My parents are entrepreneurs to the core. So they've built several companies and I've helped build those. One of them is the largest restaurant company and catering in Sweden right now. Oh, wow. And so it's been really fun to go from, doing the ledger by hand to this huge company, that everybody knows about now. And then I have a degree in psychology, very interested in people, could be because of the family I come from, but, and then also a master's in leadership and management, but I love the combination. I love to see people win. Growing up, I've always been in the background, watching other people. Right. So it's kind of comes naturally with wanting to see other people win and help them to get on their way to discovering and being their greatest. So
I love it. Yeah. That was such a good little overview. Yeah. And I've got your website pulled up now, and I got to admit, I did.
Don't look at that.
I did go on media. I did go and Google the winner there of the 1984 Eurovision. Oh yes, they look like they're having a lot of fun. I've got the Google images up on the screen there.
Yeah, and it's funny because the song is about this man who has these golden shoes and all of dreams come true, and it's so not Swedish. So it's funny now that I'm older, I realize that's so not Swedish. So it's really fun. One of my uncles he just calls "I'm just a lucky guy" is kind of his slogan for.
No, I get that. Yeah. I get that. So, obviously a much different upbringing from what a lot of us would experience. What was your transition into entrepreneurship? like? How did you come about that and realize that, hey, I'm going to be doing something a little bit special here?
Yeah. So actually, I left Sweden again. I've been back and forth a few times. This time around, I came back to the States 7 years ago, and I decided to get my papers. I'd been in corporate for a long time on board of directors and things like that. University is not quite as needful in Sweden and Europe, so I just went by, having from the time I could walk,
Yeah.
learning how to do things. So I got my papers and I loved going back to school as an adult. If you have the chance, I highly recommend it. It was awesome. It's like Audible, but like, yeah, it was great. So I breezed through that really quick, and then I was actually supposed to be the speaker at the graduation at University of Utah, and then COVID hit.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and so we didn't do that. And I did get headhunted before that because I graduated a little bit before. I got headhunted right away to a company, and I thought, oh, that's great. This worked out good. LinkedIn, fabulous. Started working, but it's hard. I've always been in management or operations and things like that. So it was a lot of freedom. So it worked out good. But then COVID hit in the States where I live too. It's last in, first out. So I didn't even think about that. They were all
Mm,
crying at the office, like, oh, we're going to lose our jobs. And I'm like, what? Oh, yeah, right. And so, yeah, my director, he was all crying, and I was like, oh, I forgot about this. I'm so used to Europe. But yeah, and then COVID hit, so I did a little bit of different things. I was online then too, but I took a break from it after COVID opened up. I just missed people a lot. And I was a GM for a big company, but I realized for me and my situation, being a single mom, still having younger children at home, doing corporate in the US on the level that I was used to was very difficult.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, corporate's difficult without kids, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and so and I'm used to a lot of freedom. It's hard when you've been in an entrepreneurial spirit for a long time, or been able to have the confidence given to you that you do this, we know what you're doing, in full freedom, to going to still be a bit supervised even as at the top. So
Yeah,
I was able to get out of that, luckily, and I in the segue I had started to kind of put out feelers and starting to build. So I mostly today I do in person or with client offline, where I help executives and high performing entrepreneurs a lot with what they're doing. But I'm looking to it's time to get back online. My children are getting older and things like that, so I'm excited about that. It's a good journey.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Tell me a little bit then about the pick up your crown movement and what you got going on with that.
Yeah. So that was a couple of years ago as I was going through I left a bad situation when I left Sweden 7 years ago. And kind of go through that healing journey again. And then it was more about the warrior, right? Most people have seen The Gladiator. If you haven't, you should see it with Russell
That's a great
Crowe.
one. Hmm.
Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. And in my mind, I always had that vision. When I get up in the morning, people are like, oh, but in my mind, if you can keep that vision of Russell Crowe in the arena, I love that when he bends down to touch the sand,
Hmm.
it's a new opportunity and a new day. If you can keep that image, like, you are going to start your day so much stronger. And it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
funny. Yeah. I watched Kobe Bryant, and this was after he passed away, and he actually told in an interview that that's the image he has when he prepares for games. So I was like, it works for little people and big people. So, but yeah, that's that. But then after that, I just want people. For me, it's not enough to be enough. I don't believe that we are just enough. I don't believe that that's a place that we should want to be in.
Mhm.
I believe that we are amazing and glorious, and that we are capable of wonderful and great things, and that we are resilient, and the human spirit is much stronger than we give it credit for.
Yeah,
And
yeah, for sure.
that's where that whole like pick up your crown came from. Just every day, just pick up that crown when you get out of bed and get going.
Ah,
Remember who you are.
yeah, it's so good. I don't, you know, just on a side note, I think Joaquin Phoenix did a wonderful job of making everybody hate him in that movie. Like he was such a good baddie.
Yeah.
But
Oh, the emperor in real life, in history, was
yeah,
horrible.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, he was such a wacko. So it's fun to be able to like that actually is history.
Mhm.
So
Well, I enjoyed that. So let's go back to getting up out of bed and to coaching and to getting the mindset right. Because I find it ridiculously important inside of the entrepreneurial world to have that attitude when you get up. And as a coach, I'm interested to know what are the most common barriers or problems when you're coaching that you see people facing in their personal or in their professional lives? What are some of the things that you find repeating patterns in?
right. So I am very privileged to be in a very raw and bare space with my clients. We all sign an NDA. I never talk about any specifics or really what company they're working with or anything like
Right,
that, so
right.
they know that they're fully safe. But um a lot of them are around my age, kind of like 40s or so. You push yourself, like you're in the American dream, right? But these
Right,
days the
right.
American dream is very costly. And it's a
Yeah.
lot of
It's
pressure.
a lot of work too,
Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of work.
Yes.
Two hands doesn't work quite as well as it did before, and we demand a lot more of life. Before, marriage and relationships was more of a, it was a financial and also a generational growing generations, like making your own people. That was what relationships and marriages were about. And work was, that was the freedom that you had. You could focus fully on that. If you had a wife at home and took care of the kids, you could focus fully on work, and that was kind of it. Like everybody was happy, or that's the understanding that was then. And now it's so much. And so, work affects home life and home life affects work. And so what I run into a lot at with my clients is that they are feeling a burnout of where they have fought so hard to get where they're at, and now they're starting to feel like everything about them is just about what they can produce in terms of money or
Yeah,
what they can
yeah.
get. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very real problem there, yeah.
Yeah. And so they are on teetering on, marriages are maybe falling apart, or they might be bitter, feeling that, there's no value to them unless they can hand out their credit card, or, help someone out with money or whatever, right? Whether that's their family or in corporate, and so forth. But so I tell them it's going to sound very, very ridiculous, but we're going to start at the very basics, and we're going to start with gratitude.
Mm,
So
yep.
so that's where we start all the time. Like gratitude, I said, is the magic that's going to transform these problems that you have. And that's the foundation that we need to stand on for any other work that we're gonna do.
100%. 'Cause that was actually my next question.
Mm. Yeah, good.
It seriously was, how do you begin and how do you walk people through this mindset shift? And man, I love gratitude. Ever since I started practicing it, things get a whole lot better. I've been doing it for about 5 years now. And
Yeah.
I carry it's actually it's not here because I just changed out of my gym shorts, but I carry a little pebble. I carry a little pebble with me, and it's a gratitude rock. And every time I put
Nice.
my hand in my pocket, you feel the rock, and you're like, "Oh well, I'm grateful for this," and it just prompts you. So, anyways, it was my next question.
Yeah.
But how do you walk people through that? How do you get them moving and get that mindset shifted?
Yeah. So a lot of times if you've ever seen that, maybe you've been to like a seminar or conference and they talk about gratitude, right? And then like, okay, here's a list, like write down all the things you're grateful for. And then you sit down, your neighbor's like 20, 25, 30, and you're like,
Yes,
I just barely
yes.
get 5. Like my life sucks. So long time ago, I just decided that we're only going to focus on, and there's actually on Amazon, for example, there's a gratitude journal. It's I think they only make it in gray,
Mhm.
but there's a gratitude journal, and that one I believe only has 3 items. So I usually have my clients get that if that's easier for them, especially in the beginning when you're wiring your brain.
Right.
You need to put it down on paper. After that, it gets more, you literally rewired I mean, we do studies on athletes and things like that. The athletes are the easiest because you can see before and after performance so much
Mhm.
faster. But this is not just taken out of nowhere. So I have them do 3 things that they're grateful for, and it can be super benign things like my toothbrush is pink. I mean, is great, or I have a bed, or the shower was warm.
Mhm.
Just very like non-stretch things at all. Like
Yeah.
it's not supposed to be a stretch of any kind, because then it feels like I have to make it up.
Mhm.
And then they do 3 of those at night. And then they keep going with that. And I tell people who are in the growth mindset community and who have been there for quite a while, like you have, that it's important to maybe if you to join. I even told some coaches, I said you need to join like Facebook groups with
Mhm.
people that are not of growth mindset, because you need to stay focused and anchored in what it's like to not be there, that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
So like I have a
Um,
story for,
oh,
can I do a short
please.
story? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I was sitting at church. It was a church lesson, and I was listening to this guy, and he told about this story when he was much younger. That's another thing too. It's amazing how long people carry trauma and don't work through it, and how
Mm.
like these
Yeah.
things stay. But anyway, so he was talking about how he was out and there was this thunder and lightning, and he was outdoors, and um he just said, and then this lightning went into the tree. And I'm thinking in my mind, because growth mindset, right? I'm thinking, wow. My next thought would have been like, I'm so grateful. I'm
Right.
so
Right.
grateful that tree was there. But no, he was terrified, totally traumatized. All he could focus on was that lightning hit that tree, and it could have been him. Like he couldn't find any kind of gratitude or anything in that incident, whereas I couldn't even like get to his thinking.
Mm.
And it reminded me that it's very different before you start thinking like that and rewiring your brain. The place that you're in is so different. So it's good to keep kind of anchored with communities that are not there, so you can be reminded what that's like and be able to help people better, because otherwise you don't do the basics. Like people who do growth mindset are not going to go to the basics of 3 things gratitude. And but then when you fall down the stairs and you're taking out the trash, instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I could have broken my leg, instead I go, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful I didn't break my leg.
There you
you know
go.
yeah.
That's so, it's so easy to comprehend when you're on the other side of it, but it's so difficult to teach to people that can't see it.
Yeah.
I struggle sometimes in opening people's eyes to it. It's like, I have a master class, and I think the power of gratitude's like module 1, lesson 3. It's right
Yeah.
there at the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
But I can see a real value in going back and getting in front of people that don't understand it. It's just some people get it immediately and some
Yeah.
people never get it. I don't know how to transition them into that. So that's but gratitude absolutely changed my life. Just knowing that, hey, well, it's raining. Well, you could be angry that it's raining, or you could be pleased because, the grass is going to grow, the trees are going to grow. You'll see some flowers here pretty soon. There's a lot to be said for the rain.
Welcome to Intermission.
So I don't run commercials on the show, but if I did, I'd remind you about our free community on School, the Clinic. A place where you can learn from me, the small business surgeon, and get direction, support, and accountability from others in the group. To create your free account, go to followsam.live and click Join the Clinic. All right, thanks for that. Back to the show.
Thank you. Come again.
Yeah, and in America, we could turn off our sprinklers that night.
But nobody does, so the grass gets watered twice.
That's great. I have my neighbor down the street. I think I'm gonna go knock on the door because I'm starting to get worried. Like it's all overgrown, and I'm like, are they still alive? And sometimes you wonder. It could be maybe I should have knocked on that a long time ago, see if they're still in there.
I don't know about that. All right,
Yeah.
let's get back on track for a minute, because mindset is one thing, but what about self-belief? How do you find that affects the outcome of the people that you're working with? Is their mindset and their self-belief broken?
Oh yeah, it's super hard. I was invited to a self-development seminar just to see if I wanted to help them and promote their seminars.
Hmm.
And we talked about that, because I said I don't like to use the word enough. Nobody wants to go to a therapist and they go, "You're fine." I'm fine. I'm fine. This is fine. I don't want to be. I'm here because I don't like where my life is. I don't want to be fine. I don't
Hmm.
want this to be enough. I want there to be hope that this can be better. And they talked about that some days, some people can't even get up to the level of feeling enough. And I thought, that is such a hard place to be in, to not even feel like Like, to me, I don't even want that vocabulary of enough. I
Right.
want you to feel like you're glorious and you're amazing. Um, I think, again, like, you just have to decide. It's like to say nobody's coming to get you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
It's it's a stark day when you realize that there is nobody coming to save you. You got to put your own socks on and pull them up and crack on with it, you know?
yeah. And I heard someone who said, and I really like that, stuck with me. And you can apply that to yourself first, because self-love is the first thing. And you ask people, like, why do you love your children? Like, why do you love your child?
Oof. Like a million
No,
different
first thing that comes to
reasons.
mind. Why do you love your child?
It just made me smile. They're fucking great. Being a dad's the best thing ever. I love it. I love being around them. I like you feel the energy that comes off them.
Yeah,
Like, and
they're yours.
there's no other energy like it. I love
Yeah.
hugging them. I love ruffling their hair. I love taking them to school. Like,
Yeah.
it's indescribable. What do I like being a dad? I love it. I got these little breathing, living entities that eat all the stuff out of my fridge and drive me up the wall. But
You're a
I love
snack
them. I
master.
love them. I love them so much.
Yeah.
And
But
not just
what did they do to when you held that first baby? And that's like, what had they done for you to love them?
nothing.
Nothing, right?
No.
They're just yours.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
100%.
the same. Yeah. And I'm so proud of my daughter. My oldest daughter is 21.
Mhm.
And I've told her the generational curse stops with you. This is it. We're not doing this anymore. So we've spent a lot of time. I've spent a lot, because mentoring your own child, that's not functional, especially because there was some trauma to go through. I wanted her to have a completely safe space where she could go through, hash everything out and be safe in that. But I asked her, I said, and she said, because I'm mine. I said, oh my gosh, so proud of you.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
because people can't. So you love your child because they haven't done anything, because they're yours, right? When we
Yeah.
come to our own self-love, people can't define it. They have all these prerequisites. Why? We don't
Yeah.
have those prerequisites to our children. We love them. We will be there for them because they're ours. And we need to do the same thing. As simple as that. When it comes to self-love, to start at the very bottom, you have to love you because you are yours.
I
That's it.
understand that. I think the reason why people beat themselves up is and struggle with loving themselves is because they onboard the opinions of others far too much. They listen
Yeah.
to criticisms too much and they take those criticisms to heart. And then, like, for example, if somebody tells you as a child repeatedly that you're stupid,
Mm.
then you adopt an inner monologue of I am stupid. And
Yeah.
when you wake up in the morning and say, I am stupid, I don't even want to say that out loud. It's so powerful. I
Yeah.
hate that.
I
No.
know. I know.
And I think the reason a lot of people struggle with loving themselves is because they're onboarding the opinions of others, which are purely based on perception and
Yeah.
really have no value at all. So how do you go about helping people clear out that baggage? Like,
Right?
I wouldn't know where to begin with that. Just get a
Yeah, yeah.
bulldozer straight through it. Like,
Well, I think that's the hard. Okay, so I served a church mission, a mission for my church, and I served up in uptown Minneapolis. So it's famous for the George Floyd stuff, and I
oh,
can
right.
tell you that is a very, very rough area. I mean, we would be out walking, and they'll be, why are you out here? You shouldn't be out here. We never went out after dark or anything like that. But that is really when I learned that we all have tremendous value. It was so heartbreaking to see these people that lived in the circumstances that they did, and they were treating each other and allowing to be treated the way that they were. And the very first thing to do, and it's so hard, is to learn that you have to sit back and you have to learn that I am going to come first. I'm going to come first now. And then teaching people how to set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
You literally, so that when you said that, I talked about that, that's, and I thought about that when I was among those people, that when we allow ourselves to be among people that every day say things like that to us, we forget how amazing we were born. And boundaries is going to be the first thing after working on and starting with the gratitude. Like boundaries is where we're going to find, and we have to be okay with either distancing ourselves from people or not having any contact more. I mean, we tell people who try to do drastic changes through people alcoholics or drug addicts and things like that, what is the first thing that they're told? Not the AA program, but they're told that they have to cut. You can't go back. People that get out of prison, you can't go back to the same people that you were with.
Right.
And we have to get to breaking the cycle. That's really the only way to get out of it, is that we hopefully along the way there's a mentor, there's someone that we meet, there's a teacher, somebody that does not tell us that we're dumb, that can ignite that little light in us. And that, so we can have something to hold on to. And usually there will be someone in our life somewhere that will be able to give that to us so we can hang on. And then maybe a mentor like you come along, or like me, try to help, or you go to a therapist. Like we hang on to that light and then build from there, and build boundaries.
I love it. But when I say, like, my favorite thing to do is to set people on fire, they take it literally. They don't realize it's like that light switch going on, and it's just like you start with a tiny little flame, and there's all this self-doubt, and man, it's just the most rewarding thing in the world to watch them grow and watch their chests swell. And I've never done it with a woman, but like all the guys I've coached, they become like bigger and proper men, and it's so much. Like, and it's not that I don't coach women, like intentionally don't coach them. I seem to attract guys, and I'm a guy, and I say fuck a bit, and I got tattoos, so it's like, that's
me too.
That's oh, nice. That's what comes down the traffic funnel. It's my target audience is mainly guys. And so when you see their chest well up, and you see them and they've lost 20 pounds and they're not drinking anymore and all that kind of stuff, because it's all the stuff I went through, from like obesity to trying to lose weight to being an alcoholic and not drinking anymore, and all that stuff. And all of a sudden I turn around, I light that on fire inside of other people. And I never in my life thought I'd be a coach. It wasn't anywhere. Wasn't my intention at all.
But isn't that the greatest gift to yourself, though, and the work that you've done and what you've been through? I mean, to be able to rise like that. I still have my businesses and stuff, like where I work on my things, but like the coaching thing, I never saw it coming. And I wouldn't have started if one kid, he just kept coming back to me and saying, please. And about the third time I said, you know what, all right. Fine.
And so now I've like committed to writing courses and teaching by Zoom and one-on-one sessions. And I still keep my business. I still keep running my projects, but like, can't explain how rewarding it feels to just you can see them, they're off track. You got guys with alcohol problems and DUIs and business problem, and it all started when I was helping to fix businesses, and I realized, as the small business surgeon, that in small businesses under about 3 million in revenue every year, like the business it's a direct
the hard
extension.
hump right there. That's the hard hump.
Because it's a direct extension of the man that's running it, or woman that's running it. And so when they have emotional problems, and when they have anything that's out of whack, it falls over, it translates back into that business, and you can't really get past it until you like what you do, you strip down to the foundation, you start with gratitude, and you address all of it. So anyways, great talk. What are some of the steps that you take your clients through to break down those limiting beliefs that hold them back? Because when they're trying to set up their new I am statement or define their new ideal self,
right,
a lot of people might say, well, oh, that's unrealistic. I'm just a teacher, I'm just a librarian. How do you help people break through that?
So we all are wired for spirituality, whether you go to a church or you go to nature or something like that. We all have a need for it. So I live in a state where some people are it's very religious here, and some people are trying to leave that. And I do remind them, and there's a coach here who's pretty big, and he kind of said no to all of that, but now he's coming around fully. And I said, that's good. We need to tap into that. But in a lot of times, we're going to go, gee, I'm sorry for you who are not religious, but this is just an example.
Hey, go where you want. Go where you want. It's fine.
Yeah. For those who have faith or Christian or Muslims or that, what's the goal? The goal is to get back to where, right?
Get back home.
Yeah, get back home. That's what I say.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to get back home, want to go back to God again, right? And that's a pretty ridiculous goal considering what we believe about him, right? That he's amazing and all these things, and it's a big goal.
Let's not get we get too deep into beliefs. People think we're
yeah.
But that's what
So
that's how it is.
So what I'm saying is, right? So that's a huge goal. People
Mm-hmm.
say that's a ridiculously hard goal. Yeah, but people who have faith, they have a ridiculously high goal, right? The goal is to get back home. So we are already used to setting ridiculous goals. This is nothing.
Right.
Do the ridiculous goals. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's why I brought in that example more, because we, people of faith have already set ridiculous goals, and we still push ourselves, and it gives us faith and hope and something to work for. Do your ridiculous goals. It gives you, my dad, when he was a little boy and started with his sport that he did, right? He had asthma, a child, and severe problems, and he started with the sport, and it helped him. I've heard other athletes too, as they start, the asthma went away, it was life-saving. He had such bad asthma, actually, like all his hair fell out, so he never really had any hair. But then he started the sport and he pushed his body, but there was no way that he was going to see himself standing with the Olympic medal in his hand when he started that.
Mm-hmm.
Do your ridiculous goals. Like, forget about being scared. You don't need to tell people about it even. Just tell a few of like the people that you trust. Like your clients can tell you, mine can tell me, but and just be quiet. Do your thing. Have your ridiculous, just go for it.
Yes.
It'll be fine.
You see.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw you for a loop, because you might agree, but I think that we are, I think we're all one consciousness experiencing different aspects of life. I think we're immortal beings of light that occupying costumes made of meat and play in a simulation called Earth. And I think once you understand that you have the power to control your mind to whatever ends you desire, like the whole game changes. And like everybody dies. Like, so you might as well go and enjoy the little bit in the middle of the dates that on the tombstone. Like, dude, you literally accomplish anything you put your mind to. It just takes consistency and time, and sometimes it takes a long time. And I think that's where people get. I think that's where people get messed up. Is that, but if you keep showing up every day, and if you keep doing the work, and if you keep believing in yourself, I don't think there's anything that you can't accomplish.
No, and one big thing that I point out very often is that life is hard for everyone. Now, some people might go through a lot harder things. Like I love watching Soft White Underbelly. Those are very interesting interviews on YouTube. Very interesting people that are in there. If you want to learn about resilience of the human spirit and like people at the, go through the very worst in life, those are very, very interesting interviews. But
I'll pull that up right now, so I've got it for after.
Yeah, no, he's so good. And the guy who does it, he comes from a very solid family. He has great married parents, like totally does not come from, he's had by all, if I would say he's had a good, easy life. Like he has had the family and stuff that most of us dream about, right? But somehow, because he started out taking photos and then he started interviewing these people that he took photos of, and they're just amazing. Like he's definitely the right person for it. Because he's like a child, right? It's all new to him, this kind of trauma, the choices that they made. And so he asks all these questions that we, anyways, they're fabulous.
That looks just, there was another photographer, like something about the streets of New York. I've just pulled it up on the screen now. That looks like something I definitely want to listen to. I can see that. I just pulled it up so the viewers can see.
He's amazing. But anyway, so I tell, so just remember, sometimes when you meet people out and they say that something is hard for them, I might have been through some excruciating hard things in my life, but to the person whose hardest thing is to have twins, that feels to them pretty much as hard as the trauma I went through, because they haven't, it's like people say, I could never do that. No, you
Right.
would. If you had
If you
to,
had
you
to.
would do it. Yeah. So unfortunately, like that can be hard to have compassion sometimes for people because you're like, how dare you? Or like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's not even hard. Why are you crying? Like that's nothing. But
Oh my God. Yeah,
yeah,
but
but I tell people,
then you sound like an ass, you know?
yeah,
And then
exactly,
people
right?
think
Like,
you've
oh
got
my,
no empathy. I'm
oh,
like, no, it's really simple. Hold on. And then you
yeah,
forget,
yeah.
like,
But
and
but I tell people, if you can get with the train that life is hard, doesn't
mhm.
matter what level, you are going to push through so much faster.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
If you continue to be shocked by life being hard, that's what we see a lot on social media. They're out there, I call it bleeding all over, continuously. Every little thing that happens, it's a huge negative post, like, oh, my world is over. Get used to life being hard. I promise you, you'll push through so much faster onto the other side.
yeah, yeah. I don't engage with that kind of stuff on social media. My social's been pretty clean for the last few years because I just unfollow that kind of trash. But
Yeah, yeah, I know.
like it's
Yeah, that's right. Be very careful with the algorithm that you create on
yeah,
social media for
because
yourself.
it can make or break you one way or another.
Mhm.
If you
Yeah,
follow and engage with negativity, then your stream will become a bunch of negativity, which is really strange, you know. So
yeah,
we try not to do
yeah.
that.
Now,
So tell me about your speaking career. Let's move on to that. Tell me about speaking. What's that like? And when did you do your first speaking engagement? And were you nervous?
yeah. I started a few years ago, and it's good. I listened a lot to Brene Brown, and I mean, I like it for some reason. I always read Brene Brown to.
Now I've got your attention. Just take a minute and pause. Imagine your business running the way it's supposed to. Your inbox is cleared, your social media posts are scheduled, leads are being called in real time, all while you're meeting for lunch with your newest client. You're free to focus on what actually matters, growing your company, closing deals, building your brand. A virtual assistant can transform how you work, and that is where I can help. If you are ready to see how a vetted, trained virtual assistant can take your business to the next level, go to followsam.live and just click on that big green button. It really is that simple. All right, thanks for listening. Back to the show.
Together with Simon Sinek. Like I'll read his and her book for them because they're both. I love the business, and she focuses a lot on emotions and psychology, right? But he does business psychology. It's both my geek stuff. But I loved what she said when she stood behind this curtain before the stage opened up. She always reminds herself that people are people are people. And
Yeah,
that, just like you said,
yeah,
you know, like we're all the same. We're all like, just here to be able to break bread essentially or be a part of each other. And whatever problems I'm going through, there's going to be other people that go through that or that I can be helped for, or I can be inspired by what they're going through. And I can use that in furthering, my help for others. Like we are all together. So that's what I remind myself when I get nervous. But I love so much being able to see people's eyes light up. That's what
yes,
I love about
yeah.
being able to be on stage and talking to people and walking around among them, things like that. So I have smaller children, but they're getting older, and so I'm definitely looking. I said 2025. I'm gonna start pushing more to do it more often. I've done some international speaking, and I love that. So it was fun to be able to meet together. Like I was in Paris last year and spoke at a women's conference, and it's so fun to be able to meet women from all
Yeah.
places. And having been online for a while, like I've worked together with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, and it was fun because I thought I wasn't gonna know anyone at the conference. But then, as I got out the elevator, I had someone scream my name. And because we've been together in the Dean Graziosi sphere for so long, like we knew each other from there, and it was an instant
Right.
family. So it's wonderful if you can get right with the people that you surround yourself with, and social media and other places can be wonderful. You create instant family and you find that tribe. You no longer, if you are in a dysfunctional family situation or work is very hard or things like that, then you can go online, find groups or find people, find goodness that you want to follow, and you'll be able to find like family there.
I love that you say find your tribe and stuff. I think it's very common knowledge that you become the average of the five people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
But expanding that out into social media, it really does do a lot of good when you learn how to mute the right people and meet up with the right people. And it's not so much a lot of people want to attract everybody. They want to be friends with everybody. And I tell them, look, say what you say, be who you are, and you'll attract the right people and you'll repel the right people. Life will go a lot
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
So
And that's what I tell people too. Like somebody, no, you don't need to be together all the time. Like you find your people, and this person maybe that's bullying you or not being good or unkind, or then let them find their place where they have people that they feel at home with and they can be happy. And I mean, we all can find that, where we need to stay home until we can be better.
But I think,
No, oh yeah. That's what. Sorry,
ahead.
that's what I was gonna say before. Sorry, I'm gonna cut. But it's
No,
just
you're good.
we owe it to ourselves. So I heard this about a partnership, right? Like we are going to have times when we feel extra human. Like I'm depressed. I'm not thinking right. I'm very negative. Like I feel like I can't get out the hardness that I'm in right now, right? But when we're in a partnership or marriage, for example, we owe it to our partner not to stay there. Like that is fundamental. We owe it to our partner. If we can't do it for ourselves, we owe it to our partner to not stay there. We can do it for a couple months. They can carry, we can be 10%, they can be 90%, but we need to get up and get out of that. And we should look at the same for ourselves. Like we owe it to ourselves to not let the people that called us dumb or that treated us bad or put us through things where we shouldn't have been. We owe that to ourselves not to stay there. And I think that as we go through life continuously, to remind us, you owe it to yourself not to be in this negative space. You owe it to yourself not to be around these people. Like just if that's hard to set boundaries, that's a good one to go in.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I mean, it's a science that honestly I was raised the not to believe in. I mean, the hippies, all that stuff, and yet energy is very real. And I don't even like the word. I don't even like saying the words, I am stupid. Like, why would you say that? Why would you put that out there? Why? Because I believe that words manifest. I believe we create our own identity and we create our own future and all that by manifesting the words we say. And so it's very, very important to move on from those kind of folks, and for me, it's not that I don't want to see them do well. I don't want to see them succeed. I check in with them a couple of times a year, sure, but you can go succeed at your table and I'll go succeed at my table, with the positive guys, and that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, and the body does create. So for example, people are very negative. That's a hard thing too. You become addicted. The dopamine, you get a dopamine rush from being very negative.
Yes.
So that can be very hard. But when we are going to help people, my advice is to not, if you find someone deep in the well, you make sure before you get in there with them that you are the person that can help them get out.
Or they might just pull you in the well with them.
Yes. So sometimes we think, well, I've gone through something similar. Well, if you haven't healed from that, if you haven't left that emotionally and you're still in that well yourself and you're just trying to crawl over to the other well with your friend, then you have two people sitting there that are not getting out. And so it's totally okay sometimes to say, hey, I don't think I can help you because I am too deep in this myself, but this person can.
Right.
Right. And
well, I've seen it so many times. One person sitting on the couch drinking and his house is a mess, and then all of a sudden 2 people are sitting on the couch drinking and the house is a mess. I've seen it in my friends, and you got to, unfortunately, you've got to just kind of leave them to it and hope they clean up one day.
Yeah, and I tell my children that too. You are welcome. Then we'll talk about some of their friends, or they make new acquaintances, and we'll talk about some of the issues. And I said, you are welcome to have them as a friend, as long as you can lead them and they don't lead you.
Yeah.
Because everybody needs to be allowed, right? If we always say, oh, you're the the 5 people that you hang around. Well, at one point, some lost person needs to have those 4 people so that they don't have to be there, right? But they have to be willing to grow with you. If they are going to drag you to the 5 that you don't want to be like, well, then that's probably not one that you want to have continuously in your proximity. And as horrible as that sounds sometimes, like it's just like you said, it's energy, and you know, we all make a choice, and they make that choice, and I make this choice, and it doesn't have to be better, but I feel better here, and my
Right.
life's better when I'm here.
Yeah, and again, there's no animosity towards it. You want to see
No,
everybody do well,
no.
but sometimes you got to let them go. And for me, getting sober was a big adjustment in friend groups. You know, I would still go to the bar and see my old buddies, but over time, I just had less and less in common with them. You know, you just move on and move past it. So
Yeah, yeah, not your tribe anymore.
I would go help them if they were in a bind. You know how it is.
Yeah, no, I
But no.
know, for sure.
So we're almost up on time, but I got time for a few more questions if you're down.
Yeah.
Right. One thing I like to cover, and you did mention a couple of authors earlier, but you know, the whole premise of the show is so that people can get better at stuff. And I'm a huge proponent of ongoing education. So can you share with us a few books that you have read that have had an effect on you that you'd like to share?
Yes. I actually shared it just, oh yeah, I just released my third book, and so we met up as the women who'd been a part of that. And one book I talked about there, and I think that's very good if you're just starting out, or just if you haven't worked on that part. Forgiven by Desmond Tutu
Oh, I
is
haven't heard his name
fantastic.
in a long time.
I know, right? And I I I love listening to Audible one because it's not him reading it, but it is this African male voice. I mean, it's just like it's like listening to the Lion King for hours, you know.
Like
And
Morgan Freeman reading it.
no, it was James Earl Jones,
Oh,
like
that's even
that.
better. Oh, okay.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah,
good. I
yeah,
could just
yeah.
even listen for a few seconds. But that one is a fantastic. His daughter actually reads in it. I don't once they talk about her kind of experience, and they use that a lot in the experience of forgiveness. Um I don't particularly like those. So I actually jumped most of those segments, but I do love the book. It taught so much about forgiveness and what it does also for ourselves and for our children in securing, you know, more secure adults, and like it's a whole trickle effect. And so it's a wonderful book. I love that one. And then I do read a lot by and also Brene Brown has some segments that are just on Audible, so I highly recommend finding her stuff on there and see what you like. um and from a business perspective, because I love psychology of business, because right, nothing is personal.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a mafia line from a movie. That's not reality.
We'll go
Um,
with it.
the-
Anything you want's real. You just say it.
yeah, yeah. No, no, but I mean, like where they say that it's not personal, it's business. I'm like, that was from a movie. Nobody should use that for real life.
Mhm.
So, but I love Simon Sinek. I love the way that he thinks, and you know, he's a big part too of like finding that, like picking up your crown, finding your value in who you are and as human beings. He's very much for remembering the human value in corporate business,
Right.
and what happens when we don't. Those companies actually fail. It's very, very interesting to listen. He has very good, very clear examples in all his books. And yeah, and he talks also, it's interesting, Leaders Eat Last is one of his books. And for you, as a, you know, today sober and all that, he covers a whole chapter just about the happy chemicals in our body, and how they get overridden when we use drugs and alcohol, and why
Mm.
we're so attached to those, because they're instant gratification, whereas it takes work to
Yeah.
create those natural chemicals. But anyway, so he's, I really love him. I'm reading, yeah, I read all the time, so it's a lot of them. I love, there's Blink is another one, and Thoughts Are Things. Those are kind of parallel.
Right.
They talk about how intuition and how we feel things, and that we should trust that initial, because it doesn't
Yes.
matter. They've done studies. It doesn't matter if you feel it within the first 30 seconds, you're going to feel it at the end of, you know, a couple months later when they ask you again.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
So very cool stuff.
That's what the gut's for. That gut feeling is real.
Yeah.
It's absolutely real. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And this is kind of like a little life hack for me, because what I do is I write down the titles of the books that sound interesting, and then all of my guests that come on the show refer me books. I got a whole bookshelf full of books.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then you can just add him. Let me see here,
Yeah.
because this, I never remember his name, and his voice is kind of, but he is amazing. And I'm kind of reading that right now. Ryan Holiday. So he's written, so this is the third book of his that I'm listening to now. Ryan Holiday writes writings around Marcus Aurelius meditations.
Oh,
So those are
the first YouTube video from him is him and Mark Manson interview, and it says the Stoics didn't give a fuck. I like him already.
Yeah, no, he's great. First book, fantastic. If you're looking for really stepping into, like, pick up your crown, getting that energy of like the man in the arena, I always think of that. That will never be like those lost souls, that those souls that never got to feel, what it's like to have victory in their life, right? I rather fail time and time and again and get up rather to never feel victory or defeat.
Yes.
But yeah, Ryan Holiday is great. I'm reading his books. I just started on his yesterday.
I love that, and thank you for those recommendations. I tend to find the more times you fail, the easier it is to win.
Right, just like life, right?
Figure it out,
Get up faster. You're like, I've done this before. That's what I love with my dad. My dad, oh my gosh, he's a different kind of person, but I love that with him, though. That's the thing. I would lose the car key or like something. He's like, it's fine. I've done that 5 times. Like, I've done that so many times. Like, so it's nice to have someone who's like screwed up with things like that in life, because he's like, oh, it's okay. We have more patience and compassion for people around us when we've failed a lot, because we're like, oh my gosh, that's nothing.
Yeah. It puts everything in perspective. You have a couple of big failures, and the little ones are just like, yeah, whatever. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's no biggie.
The sun's going to come up tomorrow. They can't cut my dick off. We're fine. It'll be all right. So,
yeah, find joy in finding the solutions. I guess that's the big one.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Couple more questions. Just get this wrapped up real quick, Nathalie. This is the old cliche question, but this show is aimed at the younger crowd. It's aimed at the people coming up. And so if you could jump in a little time machine and speak to Nathalie from 20 years ago, what's one piece of advice you'd want to put onto her?
Be patient.
I like that.
Yeah, I just told my daughter, I said, my kid's my why, right? So it's going to tear me up when I talk about him. But I talked to my daughter today, and I said, you're just going to have to be okay that you're different, because you're a leader. And so you're going to have to find a couple of people that are going to be close to you in your life. And then you're going to have to find your space as a leader. And that's okay too. And so just patience. Like, don't give up. You'll find your friends. You'll find your path. Just go. It's like, I love what Gary Vee says. He's like, if you're under 30, screw up all you want. Take all the time you need. Just screw up. Try everything, because you got the time and the opportunity to do it. And then like, go figure it out.
Yeah. I love that. Be patient, because it takes 7, 8, 9 years to become an overnight success.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people don't see that. It just takes a lot of the same things over and over. Consistency and patience are huge. So thank you for that. And thank you for hanging out with us today, Nathalie.
Yeah.
I want to ask just the last question for everybody that has enjoyed the interview, and I sure hope there's been a few of them. Where can they find you online? How can they follow you? And what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah. So I am the only one with my name, which is great. So you can find me anywhere on social media, whether you are on LinkedIn, or my Instagram is real Nathalie, because I've had my account taken down. Facebook as well. I used to have, that's when I worked with Jay Shetty, but Meta is its own, and there's no customer service. So you lose your news. Yeah. But anyways, you can find me on Nathalie Herrey. You're welcome to reach out on social media anytime.
I will put those links in the show notes. All right. Well, thank you so much for hanging out. It was my pleasure. That interview flew by. Guys, if you have enjoyed listening to Nathalie, please show us some love. Click on those links and go to her site, and you can interact with her on social media even. It's been my pleasure to interview you, Nathalie, and thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah. Thank you, Sam.
All right, guys, that was Nathalie Herrey, a renowned motivational speaker, corporate consultant, and life coach. I had a blast interviewing her. Please go show us some love on the socials. And as always, you'll be good. And I will see you this Friday for Friday Fire. Bye.
All right, guys, that wraps up another episode of the Small Business Surgeon podcast. I hope that you have taken away some valuable insights from today's show. If you did and enjoyed it, be sure and hit that like and subscribe button and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're serious about growing your business and you want to be a part of a community of like-minded entrepreneurs, just go to followsam.live and join our free group, The Clinic. All right, I'll see you next week.